Isn't it bizarre that in the first few years of your life, all the shows, books, games are all about teaching kids to be kind? In school, you're taught to play nice. You're taught to be polite and attentive by the grown-ups around you. So as a child, you grow up thinking this is how the world is. But then you reach the age of, 12, and you realize it's not. People are kinda shitty. Which is weird because we do teach our children to act a certain way, so at some level we are very aware that acting kinder is better. But for whatever reason, a lot of us just don't.
Clearly there's something holding us back from practicing what we're preaching. And there is. 4 things.
1. This is a big one to start with. People are really selfish and do not have the capability to care for much but themselves.
Not me. I'm the most empathetic person who sympathizes with each and every being. Aw.
I mean, we like to pretend that we do, but realistically, we can't.
We can only really care about the things that impact our life. It's not that people are heartless, blind to all the bad things going on in the world, but you can really only care about so much.
Put it this way. I'm upset about people dying of hunger in Africa. I'm horrified when I see the images of corpses in the rubble in Ukraine and Gaza. I empathize with those people because I wouldn't want to be in their situation. But when I turn the TV off, I'm like, whatever, nothing I can do about it.
If I'm being very honest, I am way more upset if I drop my sandwich than if I read that Russia dropped a bomb on Ukraine.
Because that applies to my life. You know, the main character.
Put it this way, we like pigs, but we love bacon. You know what I mean? I'm not saying people only care about themselves, I'm saying people mostly care about what's close to them.
Every person is like a star in their own solar system. And the warmth that star gives off is the empathy we have to give. Your children can live on Mercury, your spouse on Venus, your pets on Earth, your parents may live on Mars, your close friends, colleagues, family on Jupiter, your distant family on Saturn, a couple of celebrities on Uranus, and your other co-workers on Neptune. And everyone else can live on the remaining asteroids.
But as you know, there's billions of galaxies with each their own stars and planets. We can't give warmth to all of them. We do not have the mental capacity to care for everyone.
Every single second on Earth, someone dies. And that is far too many people to care about. Here's a weird realization I'll throw at you.
We don't care about other people. We care about the relationship we have with that person. You love your significant other, but the moment that relationship sinks, that person becomes a stranger that you used to have sex with.
We care for the people in our life because they make our life more enjoyable. And the reason for that is...
Reason number 2. We see the world through our own eyes, but more accurately, we do not have the capability to see the world through someone else's. Even the most empathetic person cannot transport himself into the mental or physical state of someone else.
Whatever I do, I will always be Jesse, and Adamu will always be Adamu. And while in principle I do not believe that Jesse deserves to have more than Adamu, Jesse will always do what benefits Jesse. Even though Jesse has basically everything he needs, and Adamu can't pay for his malaria medication because he can't work, because he ain't got no legs. And his parents were eaten by a crocodile. But let's say from now on, by some freaky Friday magic, Jesse and Adamu were to switch bodies back and forth every week. I can assure you, Jesse will be sending a lot of money to Adamu. 5 weeks from now, Adamu will be malaria-free with prosthetic legs, living in the most well-furnished, air-conditioned, high-tech tent in any village in Kenya.
But Jesse won't. 1, because Jesse made him up, and 2, because the people who could help people like Adamu live too far away from people like Adamu to care about them.
Everyone, to some extent, is aware that the world is unfair, that their sneakers are made in sweatshops by child laborers. Everyone is against child labor, and yet we all wear shoes, which means on some level, you care more about wearing shoes than little children with big teary eyes working 12 hours a day so they can afford a handful of rice.
This is not proof that you are a heartless bastard if you wear shoes. This is proof that we're very good at blocking injustices if they don't affect us. We Dutchies even have a saying for it.
Too far from home to care about. 3. There's too many annoyances and injustices being done to us to like each other. I'm never on my morning commute in an overpacked train thinking to myself, this is pleasant. I really feel loved by all these people around me, making me feel like a sardine in a can. And when you finally get to unzip the folder that is train, you can go sit in a cubicle for 8 hours doing work you don't want to do. Or you have to deal with people who you don't necessarily want to interact with, but you have to, because, well, they're in the same building. And let's be honest, most of them are okay. You might even be friends with some of them. But then there's those colleagues who just rub you the wrong way, but you have to work with them. Or even worse, it's your boss, which means you have to take orders from him.
I'm gonna need you to go ahead and come in tomorrow.
And wouldn't life be so much better if you could just do this?
Peter, what's happening? Listen,
Life would be so much more enjoyable if people stopped playing music after 2 p.m., had the decency to stop throwing garbage in other people's gardens, or take your phone when you leave your bag open just to sell it for a few bucks, leaving you without a phone. So why would I be kind to others if others make my life harder? Because wouldn't it be nice if they weren't? If everyone was kind instead of shitting all over your life, wouldn't that just be magnifique?
If all you had to do to never have to deal with a Kyle or a Karen again was just be a little nicer yourself. Of course, the idea about this whole kindness thing is it really only works if everyone is in on it.
Kinda falls apart with people taking advantage of other people's kindness.
The definition of karma is not if you do good, you will be rewarded for the good you do. Karma means the more good people do good things, the more good there is in the world. The more kind people are, the more easy and enjoyable life is. The more assholes there are, the more shitty life is. The thing that makes our life unpleasant is the unpleasant people and things you have to deal with. And if you're not treated with kindness, well, you don't act in kindness.
Thus sometimes being an asshole and shitting on people. And that's how the cycle of shit just keeps rolling, destroying everyone's life in the process. As this story goes.
Dave was a man enslaved by his loans, who worked 9 to 5 to afford life at home. And after slaving away for hours on end, he just wanted to go home, have dinner, and get into bed. But oh no, said his boss, that's not how I see it. You don't get to leave until today's tasks are completed. Forced to swallow his pride now 8:15, Dave arrived at an empty kitchen to an emptier plate. So I'm just supposed to starve, yelled Dave to his wife. Not like I have to work and you're home all the time, to which his wife replied. Just entered the house and this is what you say? No, hello dear, no. How was your day? Because you couldn't be civil and just nicely ask. You can cook your own food, or you can look at the trash. Now I have to attend to that offspring of yours that won't do as he's told. He's failing in class and I think that's your fault. Susan walked up the stairs, still being quite mad. She kicked in the door and this is what she said. Brian, you simpleton, you're just like your dad. Now finish your homework and go straight to bed. Brian was angry, but he also knew his place. If he started yelling, he'd get a slap to the face. He felt his teeth clenching and he felt like a fool, but he'll make him pay the next day in school. That nerd named Chadwick, who's ugly and fat, who wears the wrong clothes and who smells really bad. So Brian, for no reason other than being mean, pulled down Chadwick's pants so the whole class could see. Chadwick did nothing, but inside he was seething. To retaliate to Brian, that would mean a beating. Every day like this, Chadwick was bullied and used like a tool. This, for Chadwick, was the last drop. His bucket was full. Every single day they bully me, and they think it's fun. All those stupid kids with their pumped up kicks. They better run, faster than my gun.
And it will continue as long as people act unkind towards each other.
One person receives the shit and gives it to the next, like some sort of human centipede. And that's gross.
Here's my Taoist saying of the day.
The more salt you put into the dish, the saltier the dish will be. The more salt you put into the world, the more salty the world will be.
Some people see karma as this very spiritual thing where you do good and you will be rewarded. Karma is not a rewards card. It's asking the question, how would the world look if it was 8 million of you? Would you want to live there? If the answer is no, be a better person.
But then again, if I do something for someone, what's in it for me?
I don't know, the pleasure and warm fuzzy feeling you get in your belly? But then if they in turn return the kindness, not only to you, but also the people around them, and those people again do the same,
everyone, including you, would get something out of it. And that thing is that we get to live in a world where everyone is kind to you.
Where you can be yourself, let everyone else be themselves, and not hate and fear each other. If everyone just accepted that everyone has their own way of life, belief system, color of skin, heritage, political stance, you don't have to like it, you just have to let it be. There's 8 billion people on this planet. 8 billion unique little snowflakes. 8 billion people who all believe they're the main character.
And they're not. I am.
People are not gonna agree on everything. It's just not gonna happen. But that doesn't mean we can't be civil about it. Which leads me to reason number 4. We don't trust each other. Unfortunately, for a good reason. Which makes a lot of people extremely xenophobic. We're scared of everything that's different from us. We're very aware that our kindness can and will be used against us. You wouldn't need to lock your door if there weren't people out there who wanted to steal your shit. If pedophiles and child abductors weren't a thing, you tell your kids.
Now, if you ever see a man with a van, you should talk to him. He will have candy in the back.
But unfortunately, that often leads to kids on milk cartons. We are taught not to trust the world around us. For good reason. Some people are not to be trusted. So as much as we see another human, we also see a threat. Someone who can hurt you emotionally or physically. And as protective as we are of our stuff, we're as protective of our worldview. And when someone says something that threatens your worldview or happiness, we go on the offensive to protect our beliefs and our way of living.
Just like people close their doors so that their stuff doesn't get stolen, we also close our ears to everyone with a different opinion. We surround ourselves with people and news with similar opinions and worldviews, so we never have to burden our minds with an opposing opinion.
One thing we love to do is generalize a group of people to justify our disliking of them. We look at the worst of the group and then go, yep, that's what they're all like. Feminists are nothing but overweight, blue-haired, man-hating lesbians. Men's rights activists are nothing but a bunch of unwashed, greasy, women-hating losers.
Hey!
We generalize groups of people so we can judge the individuals by the merits of their peers. No, even worse. We mostly judge people by the behavior of the worst people in that group to justify our shitty opinions towards them. Because the funny thing is, as much as feminists hates men's rights activists and vice versa, they could not be more alike. They both feel like their sex or gender makes their lives harder, and they both view the arguments of the opposition as false and ridiculous. But if they opened their ears to the other side, they would soon realize they could not be more alike than they would ever admit. In that they're both really, really annoying.
The kindness solution is the best solution. Unfortunately, not everyone agrees on what the kind solution is. Again, because we view the world through our own eyes. Looks very upper middle class heterosexual male to me. We see the world through this very narrow lens and act accordingly.
I will only interact with people that I already agree with, and I will perceive my opinion as fact. And everyone who doesn't agree with me 100% is either racist, sexist, fascist, ignorant, and most of all, incredibly dumb.
Empathy is a big part of being kind, trying to understand what others are going through and why they believe what they believe, even if you disagree with what they're saying. People all believe that others should show empathy towards them, but then have zero intentions of returning the favor. Being kind is also willing to listen to someone, even if you don't agree with them. I am really liberal, but I don't think having conservative views is necessarily bad. We just have a different outlook on life. What we both believe is that our worldview is best for making a just and fair world. We both believe people should be respectful towards each other. We agree on the big picture, We just don't agree on the details.
Here's a good rule to start living by. If you're having a disagreement with someone, there's a 50% chance you're right, which also means there's a 50% chance you're wrong. Now let's say you're wrong and you win the argument. Hooray! It's fun to be right. But also, you'll be wrong forever. Now if you listen and lose the argument, sad fate, you lost the argument. But you're also a little smarter than when the argument started. And in the long run, that will account for something.
So we really shouldn't be having arguments with each other. We should be asking each other if they might know some shit you don't.
Screaming and calling the other person an idiot doesn't make the other person more sympathetic to your side of the argument. In many ways, it really does the opposite.
But sometimes there's conundrums where there really isn't something as right or wrong. Take, for example, a light-hearted subject like, I don't know, abortion. I think every woman should have the right to abort a baby if she doesn't want to carry or raise it. But on the other hand, she is technically killing a baby. Now, both of the sides of that argument have solid points. My body, my choice. Can't argue with that. That is 100% fair. There is no counter argument to that. But separate from that, you are technically killing a baby. And you might argue it doesn't have a conscience, so it isn't a baby yet. But it would be if you didn't remove it. Now, because of this argument will never be settled. Both sides believe that their point is valid. And both sides are, in the end of the day, correct. But to validate your point, you have to invalidate the other. And that's wrong, because both sides really do have a point. But now you're left with the question, what is more important? The life of an unborn fetus? Or the right for a woman not to be stuck with a baby that was forced upon her by someone who either raped her, sexually assaulted her, impregnated her from a one-night stand, who lied about using a condom and will never help her raise it? Is it fair to tell that woman, here's a living thing you don't want, that was put inside you in a very traumatic event, and is now your responsibility to carry for the next 9 months? My humble opinion is her body, her choice.
Better to have an abortion than a trash can baby.
I value the life of a conscious mother over the life of a yet-to-develop unconscious fetus. But I don't think you're morally incorrect if you think,
every sperm is sacred.
We look at morality as this fairly black and white thing because we deal in absolutes, but the reality is often a lot more complex and nuanced than we like to admit. Some people think drugs are the source of all evil, but who will themselves eat half a farm's worth of animals a year. And then there's some avid drug connoisseurs who are annoying Facebook vegans. And both have reasons why the other person is doing something wrong, but have the hypocrisy to see no fault in their own behavior, because they see the world through their own lens.
I think everyone technically agrees with the sentiment the kindest solution is the best solution, and you should always act accordingly. But there's really no clear-cut consensus on what that is. And also, that's not really the world we live in.
Dealing drugs is bad, but we live in a world where some people's only option is to deal drugs to feed their family. There isn't a child in Somalia who has the choice of either becoming a pirate or a doctor and then chooses pirate because it looks so fun in Pirates of the Caribbean. Being kind is a lot easier for people who have everything than people who have nothing. The worse the world treats you, the harder it is to be kind to the world around you. The Nazi Party didn't rise to power in a Germany where everyone was super happy. Its success was based on a morally and economic bankrupt Germany still dealing with the effects of the war they lost. And now you have an entire country trying to solve an unsolvable problem. When someone comes along and says, I have the solution, people become a lot more tolerant to that solution being the final solution. And then half a country votes a crazy meth addict into power and sees him as the hero. Had Germany not been in the financial crisis it had been in, Hitler would have been no more successful in politics as in painting. This has always been the solution throughout history. Don't fix the problem, just blame someone for the problem and we can direct our anger towards them. And the great thing is, it never ever has solved the problem. But it's so much easier to unite people in hatred than it is in kindness. Kindness doesn't sell newspapers. Hatred does. Hatred brings people into power. Hatred conquers lands. It even unites people. Honestly, nothing brings groups of people closer together than a shared hatred of others.
Be kind is just some bullshit they say in kindergarten. Then you grow up and you realize the world isn't kind, so why would I be? Figure if everyone's gonna be an asshole from time to time to improve their life, why not do the same? Why be kind to the world around me if it doesn't directly benefit me? Because if we all did, it would directly benefit you. We all be better off. Every single individual life would improve if we all followed the rule, the kindest solution is the best solution. Because all the shit would disappear if we all stopped being assholes. To summarize, I wrote a little song.
Hello.
People around the globe starve every day, not eating the food, just throwing away to make sure the food companies can make more profit. And of all of the mammals on Earth's vicinity, about 60% of them live in captivity to feed a community that's mainly getting fatter. If we're to live another day, we're to throw out our selfish ways, we're to leave our evil days behind. If we all can learn to be a little more kind. Billion-dollar companies fill the world with CO2 while making commercials of all of the good they do, and saying that it's our fault if we don't use a bag for life. And politicians and media know how to propagate. They're blaming the other side, teaching you who to hate. They're playing this game of divide and conquer. But at the end of the day, they're all full of shit. They're a bunch of liars and cunts and hypocrites. They're all pointing the finger at who is to blame, but at the end of the day, they're all morally the same. 0-1 finger point is where 3 point back at you. We live in a world that is full of the selfish, the greedy, the violent, who prey on the helpless. And unfortunately, this is just the way it is. But if we learn to love and know to be better, there will always be assholes, but soon they won't matter, because eventually we'll just outnumber them. If we learn to be kind, make the world a better place one day at a time. We'll stop spreading evil, we'll stop spreading hate, stop destroying this world before it's too late, and live in a world where we can all relate. And to live in that world